Hey, Max.
Hello, how can I help you today?
This is a building responding. Across Singapore, expectations of buildings are changing. Not just how they look, but how they operate.
To change the way we think about buildings is to really define sustainability. We focus it around workflow, around people.
A lot of people think a shiny new building is great, but there's a lot of value that we can create from the real estate that we have already in place.
What's emerging is not a single solution, but a different way of thinking about buildings.
When I was first told about Paya Lebar Green, there were three key focal points. First, to create a technology-led workplace where we leverage on as much smart technology as possible to drive the daily operations. Second point, to see how we can make this building future-ready, that it's able to evolve along with new emerging smart technology or a shift in authorities' green strategies. And lastly, to support the sustainability effort for this building.
How are we managing the solar energy now? It's going down to the grid, right?
Yes, we have to see how much consumption that we are taking in now.
We're able to think from the start what is the purpose and what kind of outcomes we want to achieve before going into a design of the whole facilities as well as the work processes. The high goal was to achieve a super low energy status. In order to do that, it's not just from the chiller designs and infra. We also looked at how are we going to operate this facility to keep the sustainability as well as the carbon footprint low. We needed to look into sensors, and we wanted to take the extra mile to operate with optimal manpower. And to do that, you would probably need to cover all the disciplines, the hard and soft part of facility management.
Boss, farm is water leaking.
It's down here, right?
Yes, boss.
Okay, can you go is proceed?
Okay, boss.
The usual complaints are whether it's aircon not cold or too hot. There are some complaints that come all in one time. For example, when there's water interruptions to the building, everything is all co-related. Previously, we rely on Excel sheet to compile all these complaints and feedbacks. Times has changed. We have more sensors. We have incorporated all these sensors into Internet of Things. With this, we are able to carry out predictive maintenance accurately.
The old way of facility management was very manual. A lot of the facilities management staff, unfortunately, didn't really have access to technology. If they had data, it was also very siloed. As we all know, in Singapore, we do have a manpower challenge. Hence, we need to pivot really to technology, incorporating AI into sensors, into CCTVs, and also using robotics to be an extension of the sensors that we have. And with all of that, we incorporate it into Mozart, our orchestration platform, so that we can really make better decisions.
There is an alert coming in at PLG. This is the summary. It's a corrective work which will activate my technician to attend to the corrective work for plumbing and sanitary. With this integrated dashboard, we have more time to do more higher value FM work, which includes coaching, training.
When we commenced the solutioning stage for Paya Lebar Green, we bring in stakeholders to really understand the operational requirements. We really wanted to turn this place into a living lab where we are able to put vision into actions.
I think PLG was really a good site to introduce robots because we could really design it in a way that allowed the robots to be quite seamless across the buildings. Our robots here do cleaning and also patrolling. They can identify the incidents and trigger a response to our command center, which is connected to Mozart.
But smart buildings don't only begin at the design stage. Many have to change while they're still in use.
In mature cities like Singapore, there's a lot of real estate that's been around for a long time. Tearing down and rebuilding contributes a lot to carbon emissions. The built environment contributes quite a lot to carbon emissions. So if we were to retrofit instead of tear down and rebuild, there's a lot of carbon emissions that we have proven that we can save.
With retrofitting, you have to work with what's already there. You have to keep the existing structure, the core and shell, as much as you can. And in doing so, you actually preserve quite a bit of the embodied carbon within the building. You can tell when a building starts to underperform, and this is when systems start to fail or require a bit more maintenance than usual. With schemes such as Green Mark, you're required to maintain a certain energy use intensity. And the building then is ranked in terms of how it performs relative to the current crop of buildings. And if it falls in the bottom quartile, BCA mandates a mandatory energy improvement scheme. And this scheme then encourages the building to upgrade the systems and then perform even better. So what this means commercially really is that, yes, there is some mode of investment that is required, but owners as well as asset managers can stand to gain quite a bit of returns from the building.
At Keppel Bay Tower, we managed to save about 5% in aircon energy. For Keppel Bay Tower, before we started the journey, it was already rated BCA Green Mark Platinum, which is one of the highest green rating you can get under the Green Mark scheme. So the challenge was to improve, identify and introduce new solutions, integrate them together, and then bring the energy consumption down further.
When it comes to retrofitting buildings, there's a lot of arguments. I think in the past, people used to say that you need to trade off between sustainability and economics, and that's no longer true today with the cost curves coming down for a lot of the technologies that we implement. So when we talk to stakeholders, it is both about the fact that you create a pretty massive impact from an environmental perspective, but also if you're able to save a lot of money, and actually the faster that you start to think about retrofitting buildings and enhancing buildings, the better for the economics of the asset itself. The headquarters that we are currently sitting in at Keppel Bay Tower was built with just about 12 million for the enhancement to the real estate itself. If we had to tear down and rebuild a complete new building, that would have been about 250 million.
So as you can see, actually have a smart lighting sensor here. We have replaced all our fluorescent light to LED lightings. On top of that, we actually add a layer of a smart controller with occupancy sensors and also the daylight sensors. That actually helps to save a lot of energy. The AI that we have actually automatically optimize all these systems and allow us to have tremendous savings within the building itself.
We had a unique opportunity in 2018 to house Keppel's units, which were all across the island, into Keppel Bay Tower. So that led us to think about how we could reuse the building and led to the assessment of retrofitting versus redevelopment. And at that point in time, we saw that there would be benefits, obviously, from bringing us together. And from a cost standpoint, we also saw opportunities for us to create more value by lowering our operating costs.
In a commercial building, the two highest energy consumers are cooling and lighting systems. So naturally, in our upgrades, we focus a lot on the cooling system. This is a solution that we did to improve the cooling tower system. It removes scaling, which improves the heat transfer between the condenser water pipe. It also disinfects the cooling tower water. So conventionally, this is done through chemical treatment. So now this is chemical free, and we managed to save about 5% in aircon energy. And then there is an additional water savings of about 50%.
Because of the retrofitting that was done, the energy use intensity has improved, right? Has decreased by more than 30%. So this reflects two things. First of all, the fact that it can then qualify as a net zero building with the acquisition of renewable energy credits to offset the remaining consumption as well. But also tenants stand to gain from these energy savings. simply because their equipment, their lighting, their air conditioning has become a lot more efficient. We've seen an upswing in rental as well, a rental uplift of close to about 10% compared to pre-renovation.
Most changes aren't visible, but they are felt. So now our building is quietly smarter and healthier. Our smart system monitor constantly and flag out any issues before any breakdown so that we can do predictive maintenance. But this also resulted in faster response time, greater reliability, and most importantly, minimal disruption to our tenant.
I think from a tenant's perspective, we want to be able to conduct the business operations that we have in an effective manner. And actually, the primary desire of ours is to not be too bothered with how the building is working. Before the retrofit, we had several issues, big variation in temperature particularly, depending on whether the sun is shining, whether it's raining, and it felt like it was very difficult to adjust and to steer. So after the retrofit, the temperature is a lot more stable. And you can see it in how people are behaving in the office.
Retrofitting reshapes how a building performs. But keeping it running well, day after day, is another challenge entirely.
So over here, you can see that we have a few key data points specifically for facility management. So this is where they do the monitoring. We also track the energy consumptions from solar and from grid. Over here, we have air quality. And lastly, the space utilizations within PLG.
There are two examples how Mozart work at PLG. One is with the utility management, whereby the chillers are managed by agentic AI. This agentic AI replaces a human's calibration of the chiller systems, and to give a sustained outcome on the amount of savings that we can bring in on a planned basis. Second example is the IoT sensors that were implemented on key assets like air handling units will help us improve the maintenance schedule via predictive as well as preemptive mode. If you are a tenant in a normal building, you'll be the one providing feedback. But over here, you get a very quick predictive response. So you have your problems solved before even your tenants makes any form of feedback or complaint.
Certis has actually been working on this technology transformation for a number of years now, probably more than 10 years ago, when we first looked at the operational design first strategy, redesigning our workflow, upskilling our people. So that was really the first milestone. Second milestone was really to incorporate more technology. And the third milestone is where we now begin to integrate more of the recent technology.
I am Max.
Like Angenic AI, generative AI, and robotics that all fit into Mozart.
With centralization, my team were able to prioritize what are the important maintenance that they have to do, allocate our manpower, our resources more efficiently. We don't have to carry out firefighting. We are able to concentrate more on preventive maintenance.
Previously, the FBAM model was really more about manpower and the provision of manpower for cleaning, for gardeners, for maintenance of all our existing hardware, equipments and all that.
Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine, they were doing traditional facility management for the longest time. And they share the vision and they share the pain points about transforming. They were facing escalating costs in manpower and utilities. So they took a very bold move to break through this vicious cycle.
So I want to make sure that the mechanism, the process between Certis and us is seamless. The push factor was really driven by cost. We were also very much driven by our community. They are asking what are kind of sustainable initiatives that we are putting in place. We have an existing building to start with. When we first started out, it was really thinking through the philosophy of how do we want to adopt technology that will right fit the building that we have.
When there's a fault, the user that notice a fault, they can just scan the QR code and then input your email, and then it will route to their system. From there, the system will page the technician to attend to the fault. This way of reporting through tech, we can trace from the start to the completion.
So our smart FM model today actually moves away from the manpower to what we call SLAs, an outcome-based kind of model. We specify what kind of outcomes do we really want in how to run and maintain the building.
Cases like feedback on office pantry choke, you can look at how we can have a regular check on all this.
Smart FM is scalable. From our experience, because we work with many buildings of different profiles as well as scale, Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine was one of the first few clients that we approached. One of the first schools to embark on Smart FM and been very successful about it, 12 months into the journey. We were able to earn their trust because we were able to show them a platform that works. The time we were experimenting Mozart over a Jewel, we were able to show outcomes from it. The right fitted technologies is derived from understanding the purpose as well as the outcomes that we align with our clients. Buying the best suite technology wouldn't help you satisfy and guarantee outcomes.
Without integrated FM, you would really have separate ways of running a facility. For example, you will have your cleaning, your security, your building management. With integrated FM, the building operator would then just deal with one. So obviously that gives a lot more accountability. In terms of tenants of the building, they will get a better experience. The IFM model that we have is not only for single buildings like PLG or even the Lee Kong Chian School of Medicine. It can actually be replicated across multiple buildings or even across multiple precincts. IFM does obviously require technology, which does have some investments involved, but this would, longer term, right, contribute to a better ROI and therefore better total cost of ownership.
The savings today from adopting sensors like our chiller plants and all, we're looking at easily about 13% energy savings. That translates to quite a substantive bit for all of us. Not only about energy savings in terms of cost, but it's also about carbon footprint.
When buildings run smarter, the savings add up. For asset owners, those savings change how investment decisions get made.
The whole thesis really is around the retrofitting and the uplifting of buildings through renovation, through improving building performance, but also through improving the tenant experience.
What is the most we have saved in terms of energy saving with all these technologies?
With this strategy, you should be able to save at least 20% of the energy tariffs. I think what Keppel has done with retrofitting of our assets is that it's become a bit of a competitive edge for us. We found the value in upgrading buildings, understanding what type of uplift it actually gives, how much energy savings it actually has, and what that does to the building valuation. If we basically look at the solutions that have been implemented for Keppel Bay Tower, we've seen more than a 30% reduction in its energy use, right? Therefore, leading up to an equivalent amount of savings. And if one were to be more willing to invest in the newer as well as the higher performance sustainability solutions, 50% will also be achievable. This is a result of a careful series of solutions as well as well-curated technologies that have been implemented into the building. They really are tested over time in our own assets as well. So it's tried and proven. In a building like Keppel Bay Tower, an 18-story building, what we've done is, because of retrofitting, we've saved about 33,600 tons of carbon emissions purely by retrofitting, as opposed to tearing it down and building it back up.
I think investors look at buildings very differently today, and sustainability has increasingly become important to them. That has had an impact on a lot of the investors in Keppel's funds. Notably, the European investors have a lot of interest. To date, we've raised about 4.3 billion in funds under management for our Sustainable Urban Renewal Fund, which is a demonstration of how much interest there is in creating value from real estate in a sustainable way.
Just like a new construction building, we are also committed to delivering a quality product on time and within budget. So for a retrofitting building, it's no different. But we do need to carry out the works within the constraint of the existing structures. And we need to do it in a manner that there is no disruption to tenants and the building operations. This requires a lot of upfront planning and scheduling so that things can be completed overnight, and then the next day when tenants come back to the building can operate as normal.
I thought the cooperation that we had with Keppel during the retrofit was absolutely seamless. Of course, you have people walking through the office, things need to be checked and tested, but it wasn't a disruption that meant that we had to stop working. We thought it was very efficient.
Looking back in hindsight, it made a lot of sense. Clearly, we look at the numbers. Net operating income of this building has increased by about 30%, and we've been able to create asset value of about 150 million for the asset. When it comes to the value and impact that the Sustainable Urban Renewal strategy brings, I would say that the impact is material from an asset value, from a sustainability angle, but also now we see it from an operating standpoint.
Across these buildings, the systems are different. But they are all designed to use less, work smarter, and last longer.
I think we need to start looking at buildings as living ecosystems, the same way that you would treat human health. Because so much of our time is spent in buildings, so much of our time is spent breathing the air that's within buildings.
The journey towards transformation is not an easy one. But the end of the journey is very rewarding. Imagine in the future, we will be able to optimize energy to combat climate change, use lesser human resources to manage the built environment, have a lot more meaningful jobs where our labor force could control varied technologies to manage built environments.
Catch you later. Have a great day.
Brought to you by Build SG, championed by BCA.